All right, so last week I took three trades and I won all three trades, and I called those trades live on the Telegram channel. So this is going to be a trade recap video. I'm going to be explaining what made me take these trades and what the strategy is, right? So the very first trade is this one right here, right? But before we dive into that one particularly, I'll just give you guys a quick um history or backstory of what happened. So about 3 weeks ago or thereabout, I took three trades and I actually lost all three trades, right? So after that, I told you guys I was going to make that back, as you can see from this thumbnail on the screen, right? Then the week following that loss, we did not get any trade set up. So I was assuming that the market was setting up nicely for the next week. The next week came, we broke down the market again, and we still did not have another setup. So for 2 weeks after that loss, we did not trade because we did not have a good setup. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because instead of you trying to force a market or trying to win back the money that you lost immediately, you can just simply wait for the right opportunity. You see that I waited 2 weeks for the right opportunity, and now this third week I actually executed trades and I won all three trades. So I'll be breaking down this market, and this is exactly what I saw on this market. So coming over to the first market, the very first market is USD card, and this trade alone actually was a 1:3 risk reward ratio trade, and it was actually the trade that made bad order that made back order money, right? So let me show you guys when I call the trade. You can clearly see on the Telegram channel. This was June 15th. Today is actually 20th, right? So June 15th, as soon as I was about to enter the market, we had the clear break and retest, of which I broke down the market prior to that, which is right here, as you can see. These are the 11 pairs I was paying attention. So I told you guys before, by the way, we have not taken an official trade here for the past 2 weeks. I believe that the last 2 weeks we are setting up for this week, right? Be active. We have about 11 trades idea for this week. This week is looking good, guys. I told you guys, right? So I dropped the video explaining all that, explaining the reasons I'm about to take some certain kind of trades. And then this was the very first trade I took. USD card. I told you guys, first trade I am in, right? Then the second market I was actually looking at was Euro GBP. So let's break down USD card before we go over to Euro GBP and then over to the third trade, right? So this is USD card. It was very simple price action. Let me show you guys what we had. So first off, it was the weekly time frame. It was clearly bullish at the time. So at the time, we already above this high, right? Bullish markets, very good. The daily time frame has pretty much been bullish for the past, since May. It has pretty much been bullish, right? So the only reasonable thing for me to do is to continue with the bullish momentum. So all I had to look for was an area of interest. So this was the area of interest I got. It was a very valid one. So if you look at this, you can see that we had multiple rejections from this area. Anytime we came to this area, as you can clearly see, we either rejected to the upside. If you are coming from above, we reject to the upside. If you are coming below, we are rejected to the downside, right? And since we are buying, I was hoping for the rejection to be happening to the upside, right? And then I put this orange line right here, which will be my final take profit target, because I believe price will continue buying until we get to that level, right? Apparently now we are even above that level, which makes sense, right? For a bullish market. So that is the daily time frame. Coming over to the 4-hour time frame, this is what I saw. The 4-hour time frame was also bullish. So we have three time frames of a higher time frame clearly showing bullish signs. It makes more sense to be buying. So this was what I was looking for. I was simply looking for a break. As you can clearly see right here, I was waiting for a break, a retracement, and an engulfing to buy, right? So this right here was a break, the retracement, but this was not an engulfing, so I had to wait for the engulfing. So this I could have also entered here, but I don't know why I did not enter. Maybe because it was out of session, right? But I remember this was London session, and then I entered on the next candle after the engulfing. Stop loss below the low. Technically supposed to target 1:2, right, which is right here. But at the time the market started pushing very aggressively to the upside, that's exactly the reason why we don't put take profit target. Because if you put your take profit target, price just automatically get here even with full momentum. You would have already market will just hit you out, right, and actually close your profit short. So right here, I started noticing the price from right here when I got my alerts, and that was already around 1:3, right? actually it was even way before that. I decided to hold for longer for 1 is to 3, and then I closed at 1 is to 3. So I'll just give you guys where the update is on the Telegram. As you can see, um, this is the trade right here, USD card, when we are still going all the way to the orange line, which was the final take profit target, as you can clearly see from here, right? So that was pretty much how the week consisted of. As you can clearly see, this was when we passed the final take profit target of 1 is to 2. This is when we passed the take profit target of 1 is to 2, and we're heading all the way to final take profit target, and I decided to hold up till that moment, right? So let me show you guys where I closed. This is when I closed, right? I was out at 1 is to 3 risk reward ratio. So that was the clean trade. That was the cleanest trade this week, right? So that is the first market. The second market I told you guys is Euro GBP, right? So where's Euro GBP? So this is the trade. So technically, this trade has not gotten to the final 1 is to 2 risk reward ratio that I'm looking for, as you can clearly see. So I also call this trade live again as well on the Telegram as usual, like I usually do, right? I told you guys when I was paying attention to the market, which was right here, as you can see. So right here, I told you guys I was waiting for a bullish engulfing on Euro GBP to enter. When I got the engulfing, I told you guys I was in. We continue to sell and forget. That's pretty much exactly what happened here, right? Again, the same entries. I don't gatekeep anything, as you can clearly see. I gave you guys the trade update and all that. So let's break down Euro GBP, see what I saw on the market. Again, it's the same exact pattern. There's nothing changing, right? So let's go over to the weekly. Let's start from there. So weekly, now technically Euro GBP was I don't know, I should call it the counter trend trade setup, but I explained it on the weekly setups again as well, right? So on that same video, I broke down everything. This same video, I broke down everything. You can go and watch it. I'll be putting the link in the description. So the first link in the description will be the video to where I was breaking down all this market, in case you want to check it out, right? All right, so that's that. Weekly time frame pretty much was ranging. I didn't really pay attention to the weekly time frame as much. I was paying attention more to the daily time frame. So let's head over to that one. Now, if you come over to the daily time frame, you can see a very clear pattern of what the market is doing. Markets will come over to this area and buy all the way to this area. It will come to this area and buy all the way to this, and sell all the way to this area. It will buy all the way from this area, sell from this area, buy from this area, sell from this area. Is it just a very clean pattern? All I have to do is just see what's happening and copy and paste. It's as simple as that. So as price came back to that area, the first thing I noticed on the daily time frame was what? I noticed that price has started into my area that I am looking to buy, right? Now, I've also noticed that price has not come below this area for a very long time too as well. Another thing I noticed was 3 rejection candles. As you can see, we had a doji, and a doji. So 3 days, market was struggling to actually break from this area. So if we could have broken from this area, it should have happened in this during these 3 days, as you can clearly see, but it did not happen. We had the engulfing to the downside, but it did not continue downward, and then we had a strong bullish engulfing to the upside. Now that clearly shows what? Reversal. It's as easy as that. So coming over to the 4-hour time frame. So if you come over to the 4-hour time frame, I told you guys I at least need one of the higher time frames to switch structure bullish. It's as easy as that. So as you can clearly see right here, we were having lower lows, lower highs. We started shifting structure bullish. We shifted bearish again and all that, and then we shifted structure bullish. Now I like the one. I like this clear shift of structure clearly because we started gaining momentum to the upside. As you can clearly see, compared to all these other candles, these candles were stronger, right? And then we are now shifting EME. You can clearly see EME was bearish. At the time we had a break of the EME, market started shifting bullish. So that is also a very good sign, and that's when I started paying attention to the market. Now coming over to the entry time frame, which is the 1-hour time frame, this is exactly what I saw. So 1-hour time frame also bullish, because we can never really enter on a market that is not a bullish market, especially when we are looking for buys. So we now had a break right here, as you can see, the retracement, and then this was the engulfing right here. So I took my entry around right here, and then I put my stop loss below this low. Now the reason I put my stop loss below that low is is very simple. On a normal day, I'm actually supposed to put my stop loss here, to be honest, right? But price can still get to that level. You see, what I'm trying to target is, if I can avoid a loss, I'll simply just avoid that loss, right? I've seen that price has not come to this level. Um, let's go back. Sorry, I've seen that price have not really come to this level for a very long time. So if I put my stop loss there, I don't expect price to really go to that level. It will even be surprising if price actually gets to that level, right? So I decided to hold this trade, and we are still currently holding. But as you can see, we are above a 1:1 risk reward ratio so far, right? So I'll continue to hold this trade for next week. I'm currently still holding this trade, and then the last pair was XAU USD, or as you like to call it, gold, right? So gold, again, same thing. I called this trade last week. So let me show you exactly where I called it. So this was where I got the trade set up. I saw it. I was like, gold, very, very tempting. Now, the reason this was very tempting is because it was as textbook as possible. You see, as a trader, you know certain patterns because you have been seeing them time and time again. But there's some certain kind of patterns that you don't need to guess if it's really a, in this case, break, retest, and engulfing. You don't need to guess. It's very textbook that even a beginner that learned Forex today can identify this trade setup because it is very clean, break, retracement, and engulfing. EMA below, all those good stuff. So that's exactly what I saw on this market on the 1 hour time frame. Again, remember the 1 hour time frame for gold is the only time frame that seems to be working. That's what I've noticed for a long period of time. But we can still use higher time frames for area of interest. But 1 hour time frame is just pretty much the golden time frame for gold for some reason. So let me show you exactly what I saw. Coming over to the 4 hour time frame. 4 hour time frame, we had this high right here, right? So we could have simply sold from this high, but I don't really trust gold that much because gold has a lot of volatility. It can actually just weak you to the upside, and that's pretty much what happened. So I decided to wait for extra confirmation. So we had this high right here. As you can see, multiple support and resistance level and stuff. Coming over to the 1 hour time frame, I think is way more cleaner there. So coming over to the 1 hour time frame, let me zoom in. As you can see, multiple highs, rejection from that highs. It's very clear that market will reject. So this was where we would have entered again and then gotten stopped out because, as you can clearly see, market was still pretty much bullish, right? So simply what I was looking for was, I noticed this line right here. Price is pretty much like a trend line, right? So I just needed price to be under that line and under EMA for me to be interested. As soon as I had that break, which pretty much seems like it was a news candle or something, then we had the retracement, and then we had the engulfing. As you can clearly see, stop loss above the high, target 1:2 risk reward ratio, and we are very, very pretty much close to 1:2 risk reward ratio. In fact, for gold, I believe that gold could actually print way more than 1:2 risk reward ratio, right? But depending on how the volume opens on Monday morning, we'll decide if I will decide if I'm going to hold or not, or break even the trade. It just depends, right? But the loss has been made anyway. So that's pretty much it. That's the trade update. That's the simple strategy I always use, and I'm going to be breaking down all these 20 pairs again for this new week. For that will be what now, for 23rd. I think 23rd is Monday, right? For 23rd all the way till 20 to 20 what, pretty much for next week, right? Pretty much for next week, right? So I'll be breaking down all these trades. Come back to the channel. If you're new to this channel, subscribe to the channel. I just do this shit all the time. I break down all the 20 pairs that we are going to be trading for next week, and I'll call the best opportunities that we have on the market, right? So there are pretty much other pairs I called, but we did not really get opportunity. I was calling GBP USD for sales. Can clearly see it sold. Euro USD. I think I call Euro USD. Where is it? NZD USD. I also call that one for sales. I can clearly see sold. Where's Euro USD? Euro USD pretty much sold too as well. Let me see. Yeah, it's also calling it for sales. We needed a shift of structure. As you can clearly see, we had a shift of structure, and then Alex G actually took this trade, I remember. So Alex G won this week. I won this week. The people in the Telegram, they won this week. pretty much everybody won this week. So let's do these things again next week. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you guys on the weekly setups.